I'm finally very excited to introduce to you all to our guest speaker, Barbara Hughes. Again, if you could please spotlight Barbara for everyone
Even for
while I
Barbara?
do.
I'm on it.
All right, and while you do that, I'll give a brief introduction. So Barbara is not just a brilliant mind in the field of energy storage, but she's a leader and an inspiration in the realm of diversity for our industry. With a PhD in chemistry from CU Boulder, Barbara's journey has been very exciting. She transitioned from academics to industry. In 2016, she joined Forge Nano as a senior scientist, and now she holds the very prestigious role there of VP of Energy Storage. At Forge Nano, she was able to build an incredibly diverse team and also a battery lab from the ground up. As I mentioned, she is a leader in diversity as well. This is evident as she is the chair for She's in Power, which is an incredible nonprofit with the goal to inspire women that will become the next clean energy leaders. So today we have the privilege to chat with Barbara about her experience in this space. We'll chat about her role at Forge Nano, her position at She's in Power, and she'll give us some advice for those who are in the battery industry or thinking to join it. Welcome, Barbara. How are you, and what's your state of charge today?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. I think I'm sitting at about 60%. I haven't had lunch yet, but I'm with you.
All right, perfect. Maybe you can grab a snack towards the end of the meeting. All right, well, to start off, how about you take us through your journey in the battery industry? How did you get started in this space?
Yeah, so my journey began not so much in academics, but at the National Renewable Energy Lab, where I was doing a postdoc. And the project that I was working on was working with an organic radical polymer for cathode active materials. And so I was doing lots of e-chem studies. I was building cells. This particular polymer was also a fluorophore, so I was doing a lot of spectral electrochemistry. And so learned a lot very quickly, teaching myself electrochemistry in my postdoc. And at the end of my 3 years, I was chatting with one of my colleagues from NREL, and she had actually already transitioned to Forge Nano. And she was mentioning to me that Forge was interested in bringing e-chem testing in-house in order to vet our atomic layer deposition coatings on different battery chemistries. And so it was the right place, right time for me to make a jump. And I was really excited because I always did aspire to move into industry. And so at the end of 2016, I did hop on over to Forge, and on a shoestring budget, really, we started building out the battery fabrication lab. And a few years later, so we started out with just being able to perform, coin cell testing. And a few years later, we brought in multi-layer pouch. And now this year, we're actually commissioning a 1+ megawatt hour cylindrical cell line. So it'll be our prototype line. And, that brings us to today.
Exciting. That's quite a journey. How have you found your role at Forge evolve in the last 7 years as the company has also evolved to do so many things that you just mentioned?
Yeah, it's significantly different. So, coming in off of a 3-year postdoc, I was, very much a hard-nosed experimentalist. They hired me as a senior scientist to set up the eChem lab. I was very methodical, which was super useful in setting up the lab, but maybe not in keeping up. As all the projects started to come in, I really had to learn to prioritize and move at industry pace, and startup pace, no less. And so for, a couple of years, I'm learning these lessons and building out a team. And at the end of 2 years, I was promoted to a director position, which I was really grateful for. Expanded some opportunity, not just in the battery lab, but I was also building out a team for which at Forge Nano, we call it the Internal Measurements and Characterization Group. And so that includes the battery fabrication lab, the catalyst characterization lab, as well as the physical QC group, so the physical characterization group. And so over the, next 3 years as director, we really built out that team. And I'm just now rounding out the end of or I guess the end of my first 2 years as VP of Energy Storage. And I have a team of 13 right now, which is slated to double this year with the introduction of the prototyping line. So it's been a really fast 7 years, probably the fastest 7 years of my life. But I'm still learning every day, definitely still being challenged, and can't complain.
Wow. I think it's quite rare to talk to someone who has been at one company for such a long time.
I know.
So
I think
we're
about
very
that.
lucky. Yeah.
But I really feel like I've worked at, a couple of different companies just in terms of our growth, so it doesn't feel like it's been the
Yeah.
same company for the last 7 years.
Right. So maybe we can dive a little bit into that. You mentioned in your previous interviews the importance of collaboration and partnership when you're scaling up a battery lab. Can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Sure. So at Forge Nano, we've always had the advantage that we had close ties to our national lab systems, having worked there and kind of rubbed elbows with other national lab professionals. And so it was really important for us when we were commissioning our lab, whether we were bringing in coin or pouch or even cylindrical cell capabilities, to be able to call upon some of these relationships and experts in the field to validate our results, to ensure that we were, our science was top notch. And so in particular, we really called on Argonne National Lab scientists and leverage that relationship to ensure that we were baselining against the best of the best. So nothing but good things to say about our national lab system and, the great science that comes out. And it's really nice to have sort of a institution or institutions that allow us to sort of baseline where we're at across the industry.
And is that applicable also at the Gigafactory level?
It's a little different. At the Gigafactory level, baselining occurs across a single chemistry rather than multiple.
Mhm.
So, the Gigafactory requires us to call upon some expertise from some different sources. National labs don't quite do production in the same way. So we're
Right.
learning who the experts are there and tapping those individuals. But, we have some manufacturing that's already occurring in the US, and we're definitely leveraging some of those relationships and some of those that we have with partners in other countries that already have more experience than we do thus far in manufacturing.
I definitely agree. I think there is a lot of know-how that a lot of manufacturers are not using. So, as you mentioned, partnerships are really important, especially
Mhm.
as the company is
Mhm.
scaling up.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so we already started diving a little bit into industry, but we can continue. So, with the trend of manufacturing returning to the US, what excites you about it and what challenges do you foresee?
I think what's most exciting, I mean, I really love the idea of US self-sufficiency, but I think what's really exciting to me is all of the employment opportunities that are going to pop up, the number of people in the US that are going to start, moving their careers and trending towards STEM and renewable energy. I think that's all really exciting. I think some of the challenges that we're seeing, at least at Forge Nano, right now is the challenge of being able to find a steady supply chain in the US for some of the core battery materials. We're already seeing you know, a lot of really great US based materials manufacturers, but we're also starting to see where the gaps are right now. And so I think one of the things, as you said, we have a good knowledge base. We have, world-class institutions in the US. And so the knowledge base is there, but the experience, we're not as experienced yet as some of our colleagues around the world. So but I think one of the things that we have at our advantage right now is that we have the ability to do things right out of the gate. So a US emphasis on recycling and recycling initiatives are already out there. US materials manufacturers are already trending on the cathode side towards no cobalt or low cobalt, which is fantastic. And then, of course, on the anode side of things, new tech like atomic layer deposition can be used instead of the dirtier processes of tar pitch coatings. So we're moving in the right direction. We've got some challenges to catch up, but we've also got the advantage of being able to move more efficiently with the experience that's already out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And what advice would you give to manufacturers in terms of the supply chain issues that you mentioned?
I'd say consistency is key and scale up. Those are, I mean, I think that they already understand where their pain points are, which
Mhm.
is consistency and consistency through scale up. And I think a lot of the challenges right now are being able to scale up as quickly as, battery factories are being built and materials are being
Mhm.
requested and supplies are needed. So I don't need to tell them that consistency is key. I think they know it.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned atomic layer deposition.
Mhm.
So, as most people on the call probably know, Forge Nano um, specializes in atomic layer deposition tools as well as batteries. So, Barbara, from your perspective, the company operates in diverse industries. How do you navigate that landscape?
Um, I'd say a lot of new faces for starters. We have
Mhm.
grown quite a bit lately. As you say, yes, we are mostly known for our platform technology, ALD. And to date, most of our business has been around, say, selling ALD tools and, successfully applying our tech in a number of different industries. But in batteries in particular, we saw a remarkable opportunity because of the enhancements that we see from ALD applied across battery technologies. So across multiple components of the cell, across many different cell architectures, as well as many different chemistries. And we see a lot of customers that can benefit from our technology. So as a core company, we are still going to focus on working with our customer base to ensure that the materials that they bring us are ALD enabled and are best in class. But at the same time, we're also spinning out a subsidiary company, Forge Battery. And Forge Battery is going to work at addressing some of the more niche cell requirements that are needed. So there'll be a bit of a firewall between Forge Nano proper and Forge Battery. Forge Nano will continue to work with EV companies, will continue to work with power electronics companies and help them get their materials to where they need them to be. And Forge
Mhm.
Battery is going to be more singularly focused on their cell types and working in a regime where ALD really outshines the pristine materials, really pushing the limits of what state-of-the-art materials can do. So, we're keeping our core business model of selling the tools and selling and licensing the tech. But we also, see the opportunity into these niche spaces for ALD-enabled cells.
Makes a lot of sense. Is there a specific application on the battery side that you're most excited about that the team is going to be focusing on?
I think high energy density is, I won't talk specifically about the application, but I will say that
Mhm.
high energy density cells are something that we're really excited about right now. We're getting excellent lifetimes at really being able to push the limits of energy density in some of the existing and newer battery chemistries that are coming out, and we see excellent stabilization from our coatings. And so, we're able to, as I said, satisfy some of the requirements in some of these more niche markets.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for giving us so much insight on what Forge Nano is up to. I'd like to come back to the topic of your career, your involvement with She's in Power.
Mhm.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about? You mentioned a specific mentor connection that led you to your career at Forge Nano.
Mhm.
What effect did she have on you as a woman to inspire you to go into industry?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I think that we get very hung up on finding mentors. And in all earnesty, like when I was at NREL, she was a colleague. She's working in a different department. We played softball together, so we had that more of that connection than sort of a mentor-mentee connection. But there were very few women in the that particular division that we were working in, but we all kind of supported one another. I feel like in my career, I haven't had a lot of access to mentors, and that's one of the reasons why I got involved in She's in Power as an organization, because I think that it's it's an invaluable resource to have someone who, you can sort of share your imposter syndrome with, or, relate to in terms of the things that you're going through, or you're um, encountering in your day to day. And so what I've really learned is that it's very difficult to find a mentor. And most of us are just kind of surviving as a collective community. But if we can sort of initiate a process where we're introducing women to a network of other women working in the same field, or someone in a mentoring position, that's really something that I wish that I had access to. And so, that's why I do it.
Makes a lot of sense. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the programs that She's in Power offers. You mentioned a mentorship program. I believe
Yeah.
there's an internship as well.
Yeah, so it's a nonprofit org. It's just in Colorado right now, but we hope to expand. And what we do is we match women of all ages who are interested in entering clean energy with an internship in a company that does clean energy in the Colorado landscape. And in addition to the internship, we match them with a mentor, and then we also essentially have a network of events that we do, research talks or tours of facilities like NREL. So, we kind of arm these women with mentors in clean energy, with internships, so that they can build out their network and get experience in that way. And really, it's all about, visibility, getting visibility to what a career in STEM or in clean energy means, so that people can really be more informed when they're thinking about a career path and don't exactly know what that looks like, but they want to work in clean energy. And so, yeah, it's been a great program. And, we serve something like 40 women last year. So we're really
That's
excited
wonderful.
about the growth. Yeah.
And what is the demographic? Is it women of all ages and all educations, all parts of the industry, business and science, or one in particular?
Oh, it's absolutely a diverse group, but it's all ages, anywhere. You could be anywhere in your career, just interested. It's across all sciences, but not just that. If you're interested in marketing for clean energy, we try to find you a marketing position that works with, within clean energy. I think Forge Nano is an excellent example of finding different areas. Like, we work in batteries, but then we also, there's a sales component to working in clean energy. So it's really
Mhm.
very open and a very diverse pool of women that we work with.
And has Forge Nano leveraged the program as well and taken in some interns?
We absolutely do. We take in an intern for every cohort, so spring, summer, fall.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we actually have two right now in the spring, so we're very excited.
Yeah, I think Forge Nano is a wonderful example about how a lot of startups in the industry are focusing on diversity. And,
Mhm.
the battery industry has kind of a clean slate from the rest of, automotive and supply
Mhm.
chain issues and stigmas. And I think we see a
Absolutely.
lot of great initiatives to create a welcoming space. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about how Forge Nano focuses on ensuring diversity, especially as the company grows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head, is that we want to make sure it's a welcoming space right now. And so, at Forge, we do make sure that anytime we're hiring for a particular position, that we have a very diverse candidate pool. And that's not always easy to do because it takes longer. It's a little bit more effort. but we work a lot with organizations like She's in Power. We work with to bring in interns that, you know, could be potential hires. We work with local universities and other community organizations in order to bring in a more diverse candidate pool, working with organizations that represent groups that are, you know, maybe less represented in STEM in general. But that is definitely a priority of ours. I think we decided early on that you know, a close second to survival as a startup was to make sure that we were bringing in a diversity of ideas and innovative individuals. And so, you know, the only way to do that really is to make a conscious effort to prioritize diversity.
That's wonderful. And why should women join the battery industry?
Well, I think Yin said it all at the beginning, right? Apparently, there's an abundance of employment opportunities and salary right now. So
Mhm.
I would say, from a practical standpoint, it's a great place. There's lots of space for you. I think, you know, from you know the moral world-changing view, it really is an opportunity to ensure our clean energy future, and that's important work that we want to all be a part of.
And where do you see women right now in the battery industry, and where don't you?
Um, well, I see him every day in my lab. I hope that I would I hope that I would walk into any lab in the US right now and be able to say the same thing. I think, just from my limited experience and working with different people at Forge Nano, working with external customers and things, I think probably one place where I can say that we're a little deficient is in leadership. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that it's really important to diversify in that area as well, because, you know, seeing diversity in a leadership position really has a trickle down effect to the rest of the organization. And it really, you know, sends the signal that there's a career pathway forward for everyone in the organization. So, um, yeah, as you said, we're still relatively new in terms of manufacturing, so there's still time to course correct.
And can you give us some advice? You know, you went from being a senior scientist to an executive position.
Mhm.
How did you get there? What lessons did you learn? And what skills do you think are important in order for us to be able to do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that self-advocacy is a really important learning that I think it took me a very long time to learn that. I've always been the type that, like, my advice would always be to put your head down and do good science and be productive and let the work speak for itself. And that will take you far to an extent. But you also have to recognize that you know, with everything that's going on, that there's no one necessarily that's going to be monitoring your progress as closely as you are. And so you have to be able to articulate your you know, what you're adding to the company overall and where you want to go. And if you kind of allow, if you're a people pleaser and you allow yourself to just kind of be pushed along wherever people see you, you may or may not end up in a place where you're happy. And so it's really about, you know, you have to be active. You have to actively go out and figure out what it is that you want, and then you have to, you know, make sure that you're talking to the right people and you know, getting the right opportunities. And so I think it's a really hard one, especially, I don't want to say especially for women, but I think especially for women, self-advocacy can be really daunting.
I definitely agree. I think a lot of us are a little bit more soft-spoken
Hmm.
and agreeable. So it's really
Hmm.
important to make sure we advocate for ourselves and make
Absolutely.
sure our contributions are acknowledged.
Exactly.
All right, Barbara. Well, thank you so much. Before we head into Q&A,
Hmm.
we're going to do a question lightning round where I'm going to ask you some really fun questions for the audience to get to know you better. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Ready.
All right. What is your favorite battery chemistry?
Ugh. Controversial, but I think LCO. I know it contains cobalt, but but some of the first most beautiful data sets that I collected in our lab at Forge were ALD enabled LCO, and that really made me drink the ALD Kool-Aid. So LCO.
Okay, if you could design a new type of battery cell, what would it be like?
Not cobalt containing, made of earth abundant materials, air stable, easy to manufacture, easy to recycle, high energy density, and made of non-flammable components.
That's the dream.
Mhm.
Do you have any book recommendations for us?
Interesting you ask. I have book club tonight. The Overstory by Richard Powers. If you haven't read it, it is beautifully written. Like the branches of a tree. It's multiple stories that kind of come together to one trunk. It's an awesome book.
Fiction?
Fiction, yes. Well, ish. Fiction with a nonfiction message.
Nice. What is the most promising emerging battery technology you've come across so far?
I think that solid state cells are going to have their day soon. Um, Maybe lithium sulfur, maybe a zinc based. There's still a lot of work to do in all those spaces, but yeah, maybe one of those three.
And the final question, if you were a battery cell, what special performance attribute would you have?
Long cycle life.
Nice one. Yeah, we're done. All right. Thank you so much, Barbara. That was great. I'd now like to